What's up, guys? We're back again, episode 7 of Mountains of Mainstream Sports. This week, we're going to dive into some high school football, some professional football, maybe even a little bit of college. I want to let Peyton start off with some high school football. Before we go any further, though, I want to shout out my guy, Jimmy Clayton at Sports City U Basketball. Been taking a couple of my players down there once a week. Been taking different guys, JV, varsity guys. And we've had a real good time the past month. Just wanted to shout out my man, Jimmy Clayton.
Yep. And so, like Andrew said, we're just going to talk about a little bit of everything. Like we mentioned in the last episode, this is going to be one of our shorter episodes. So you can kind of expect this going forward. Most episodes being like this format where we just talk about what happened the past week and what's going to happen this week. So first matchup I want to talk about was the matchup I was in attendance for this week, the Huntington Highlanders versus Spring Valley Timberwolves. I had a chance to work the sidelines with the sports medicine crew here at Marshall at that game. First opinions of that, like what an atmosphere. Not used to a 4A high school football game, so it's definitely interesting to see how that goes and to be on the sidelines especially. The game was pretty well much a blowout. First play of the game, Spring Valley won the kickoff, and the first play they fumbled the ball. They ended up getting a stop on that drive, but then Huntington kind of stopped them once they got the ball back, and it was downhill from there. The final score was 38-7. Huntington High looking really good this season. They're one of those powerhouses in 4A this year, so they're definitely a team to look out for.
I didn't get to watch any of that game, but was there any like standout players or any studs on either team?
So the quarterback for Huntington High, I'll have to look for his name, but I think his name is.
What's crazy about Huntington High, an hour up the road from us in Mingo County, and they've put guys in Division I colleges for football. Darnell Wright went there. He starts, I think, offensive line for the Chicago Bears. I mean, it's a big program. Big time players play there. I'm sure that was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. So I think his name's Tavion Wilson. I think that sounds right. He's pretty sure he played wide receiver last year, and I'm pretty sure he signed on to go to like Clemson to be a receiver. He was the number one receiver. Yeah, he was the number one receiver last year, and I think this year they're playing him as a quarterback. Let's see here what ESPN says about him. So he's committed to Clemson. That's what I thought. ESPN has him as a scout grade of 80, 6'3", 210-pounder. So I got to see him play at quarterback. A lot of the conversation on the sidelines was that he was a better wide receiver than quarterback, but looks like he's got a number of offers from Arkansas, Illinois, Louisville, Marshall, of course, but he's looking for Clemson, and there were a few recruiters on the sideline, so that was awesome to see, and to see Tavion Wilson, unfortunately I didn't get to see his receiving prowess, what he's, being scouted for, but he played well at quarterback, and they got the win.
Right. And, Spring Valley, I don't know, it sounds like there might be a little down this year, but they're another school that's put guys, I'm not sure.
Well, they put a lot of O-linemen in the NFL even.
I know a guy, I don't even know his name, but he played there in recent years and went to Tennessee. And the reason I know that is I was playing pickup ball at Fort Gabe one day, and this guy rolls in, and, he's just a football player, but, dude, he was just a freak athlete.
Freak athlete, yeah.
So... But yeah, I'm sure that was a lot of fun. So was you on Huntington High's sideline? Or?
Yeah, I was on their sideline, and I got a picture I'll try to put on here. But it's just a different experience being that far away from the stands. They kind of have like the track in between the field and the stands, and they have the scoreboard, big jumbotron and all that, up on the mountain. So it was pretty awesome to see. No sports injuries happened, so I didn't get any action on the field, which is a good thing. So I just got to sit back and enjoy, and it was a good game, good weather too, great football weather.
All right. So yeah, that's like we said, that's a pretty cool opportunity for Peyton. Let's move over. We'll talk about our hometown Tug Valley Panthers. Good start to that game against Logan. I didn't get to go. I watched a little bit on D&D. But, it just seemed like when Bryson Eli went out with what we found out later to be a hamstring injury, it kind of, the momentum shifted, and rightfully so. Bryson's he's a generational talent. He's probably if not the best running back to come through Tug Valley, one of. And just when he went down, it kind of changed momentum of that game. But you also have to give Logan their flowers. They was pretty well rounded. Lucas Lambert, I don't know if you guys watch that guy play, and and I think I mentioned him last week when we was going over the preview. Pretty sure he's just a sophomore, dude. That cat, he's good
Yeah,
at
he,
basketball and football. He
he
is
is
going to
just a
play
sophomore.
if he wants to play collegiately somewhere. Don't know how big he's going to go. But he is going to get offered to somewhere. You bet.
He had like what 4 carries for 107 yards or something ridiculous that game, like averaging 20 yards a carry.
Something crazy, but yeah, he shined for Logan, and back to referring to our last episode, Derek Jewell had another great game. I want to say he had 2 touchdown grabs. I know of at least one, but Derek, just like he told me in the office that day, there's more to come, and he keeps on shining for Tug Valley.
Yeah. Yeah, he looked good, and I think, hate to lose any game, but, like you said, Tug Valley had some injuries coming out of it, so.
Yeah, and I'm not real sure how long Bryson's going to be out for. Hopefully, it's not a long time he has to sit out. That's his senior year, so I'm sure he don't want to miss any time.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the dog fights this week, moving on to our next matchup from this past week, was Martin County versus Knox Central. Knox Central from Barberville, Kentucky. They came down, and it was a overtime nail biter. I watched some of the game, and anytime I look at the scoreboard and see a 42-41 final score in OT, that kind of piques my interest. And so definitely a game I would recommend people around the house to go back and watch, just due to the fact, it was Devin Maynard for Martin County looked like he had a great game on the rushing side of things. So, Martin County squeaks out 42-41 in that one. They took the win, and they're 3-1 now, looking pretty strong this year.
Yeah, I didn't get to see any of that game. I want to say Devin plays quarterback for him. I'm not real sure, but if he had a big rushing game, it might be running back. He's at one of those skill positions. But one thing about Devin, I do know, I watched him play a lot of basketball. He's a really kind of nose to the grindstone kind of guy. He plays
He
hard.
is a quarterback, yeah.
Plays hard. He's going to give you 110, I'm sure, same way in football. So, he's always a kid you like to watch. But, 42-41 overtime game, I don't care who's playing. You can't really beat that. All right. Moving on to, time out. I want to say Barberville is Kentucky.
It's
And
Barberville.
Barbersville is West Virginia.
Barber. Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, we'll clarify that for you here, podcast fans, all 20 people that watch. All right. Moving on.
I think we're down to 3, bud.
That's all right. Moving on to our final high school game that we're going to highlight from this past week, Mingo Central Wayne. From what I understand, you might have the final score pulled up over there, Peyton. But what I do know is through 3 quarters, it was tight contest. I'm pretty sure it was tied going into the 4th, and I want to say Mingo Central came away with 2 or 3 scores in that last quarter to pull away. So that's a big time win for Mingo.
Final score was 28-7.
28-7. But like I said, I want to say going into that 4th quarter, I want to say it was 7-7, but it might have been 14-7. Either way, though, big time 4th quarter. I know Knuckles connected with Burke on a touchdown pass. I'm sure that's going to be a duo that's going to connect on a lot more come end of the season. So big time win for Mingo, and hopefully they can keep the ball rolling and maybe reach.
Yep. So like we said, that was the last of our highlights. The last thing we want to do is talk about what matchups we're kind of looking at this week. So Tug Valley plays Wyoming East at Tug Valley. That's their homecoming game. It's going to start at 7:30, so that's a game to look out for. Martin County, we talked about them today. It looks like they're playing Shelby Valley at Shelby Valley this week, 7:30 as well.
On the road.
Yeah, Mingo Central also on the road against Man this week. 7:30 start for them.
I look for them to take that one pretty easy.
Yeah. And then Tulsa looks like they're playing Buffalo for all the Rebel fans out there at 7 start, and that's an away game as well.
All right. Just to kind of push past high school football, we're going to talk a little bit about the pros. Couple games.
Well, before we go to the pros, let me give a shout out to the Mountaineers for getting it done.
Jesus Christ.
The Mountaineers, they came home. They got to sing Country Roads, Sweet Caroline, the remix edition.
Let me say this. That was one of the worst. Everybody thinks that was a good game, and it was entertaining to watch. But what was going on?
An entertaining. Well, you know,
Three
I think
quarterbacks.
when Nico got pulled from the game, you know, I mean, when he came back in, he saved that game because the Mountaineers were not winning until Nico came back in.
Yeah, you give that win to him. He came in and he took care of business. Why Fox ever touched the field, I don't know why.
No, I didn't.
Terrible performance. And the Henderson guy that probably hasn't played in I don't know how long, terrible performance. But, you know, you can't really throw much on him. I mean, when's the last time he even took a snap?
All that I know is that everybody after last week with the loss to Ohio, which Ohio is a good team this year, and I was one of the people that was like, this is just going to be a terrible week. You know, the Mountaineers are going to lose. Marshall's going to lose to EKU. And when you can, you know, be surprised in the West Virginia way, you know, it's always tradition. The games, once you finally give up on them, they sucker you back into feeling good about them. But I'm going to ride the high for a week until they lose this upcoming week. Same thing with Marshall. You know, glad to see a W on the scoreboard and know they're not just going to lose every game.
I'm glad to see Marshall win. You know, I'm a Kentucky fan myself, so see Marshall win. That was a good win. Tony Gibson, I'm pretty sure that guy's from Gilbert. Glad to see him get his first career win as a head coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As far as West Virginia goes, I hope they never win another game again and anything, but that's just me. Personal preference. Let's move on to the pros. The best NFL game I got to watch this week, two teams that you would not expect to have a very good game, is the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. Now that is what we call a barn burner.
Absolutely.
Russell Wilson turned back the clock. He looked like primetime Seahawks Russell Wilson out there. Super Bowl Russell Wilson. The guy that made it, at least. And it was an insane game. Brandon Aubrey, insane. I mean, I think I seen on our fantasy group, he scored 22 points. I mean, he outscored some of our skill guys in fantasy this week. So just a crazy game.
Yeah, one of the best games of the week. Went to overtime, like you said. Brandon Aubrey took him there. Brandon Aubrey finished it for him. Like, it's just, you know, masterclass from him. One thing I want to point out, you know, like you said, Russell Wilson turned back the clock. Love to see it from a fantasy standpoint. He got Malik Neighbors plenty of points for me this week, thank goodness. As a Denver fan, you know, this game was as fun as it was to watch the whole game. I was wondering where this Russell Wilson was when we had him, and more than that, where this Javonte Williams was when we had him. Yeah, dude, he is a stud on the Cowboys all of a sudden. He was hurdling people. He was trucking through people. I was like, where was this when you were in our backfield, dude?
Yeah, that is true. Two very just underwhelming performers at Denver facing off against each other. I'm sure you was like the whole time, like, why couldn't this happen?
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, that's also my game of the week. I mean, that was just a fantastic game. Another game I'm going to comment on that was not my game of the week, but just because Denver versus the Colts, that was one of the most controversial endings I've seen in a long time. He misses a 60-yard field goal to win. The rookie kicker for the Colts, and then they throw a penalty on liftoff or whatever they wanted to call that garbage. He just a little leverage, a little pat on the back. I went back and watched that I don't know how many times. I mean, that's just a classic way to lose as a fan of your teams. Just watching a penalty go down late and then 50. Why is that a 15-yard penalty? First off, can we start? Why are they getting penalized the same for that as they are for like destroying somebody's quarterback 5 seconds after they throw the football?
All right, let me ask you this though. Time out. Good call or bad call? No explanation.
Horrible call. Horrible call.
Horrible call?
Dude, terrible call.
I don't know, Mr. Bronco Man. I'm just kidding.
Terrible call.
You don't call that. That's it. It's almost like, you know how like in basketball, unless somebody like if there's a team going for the last shot, unless you just absolutely mug the guy, they're not going to call foul for you.
Yeah, and you shouldn't.
This is Virginia against Auburn that year. And everybody said the same thing, which it was a foul, but like you don't call it.
I wouldn't even call this a penalty. Like I've watched it so many times. If he got any leverage, like he got no lift off from it, dude. I don't know if his feet left the ground when you watch it back. I mean, he was a big guy. He didn't get up. It didn't change anything. I mean, you just altered the ending of a game from a play standpoint that had nothing to do with the kick, you know. That being said, if I have to pick a game of the week besides the not to sound too salty while I'm saying this, but if I have to pick a game besides the Giant and Cowboys, it would be the Buccaneers and Texans. Texans go down 0-2. Buccaneers 2-0. 2019 was the final score, and that was a tight game going into the fourth quarter.
I watched that last night, and dude, Baker just straight drove them down. I'll be honest with you, and I know this is going to be like everybody say this because I say this because Brady also played for the Bucks. If I'm not watching the Patriots and rooting for the Patriots, the Buccaneers are my second team because Baker Mayfield to me is probably the most underrated quarterback in the NFL.
Dude, I think I saw they had a stat. He has more fourth quarter game winning or game tying drives than any quarterback in NFL
And
active right now.
He don't get his flowers. I don't understand it. And
No,
I'll be honest, their offense is dangerous. They have so many weapons, so many good receivers.
I mean, we talked about the rookie from Ohio State last week,
Yeah, he did drop one big late in that game, but it didn't matter. They still came up with the dub.
I mean, yeah.
I did feel bad for Nick Chubb. He finally found the end zone for the first time since week 12 last year, and they still lost. But what are you going to do, man?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to finish as the starter in that team. I don't know how long Joe Mixon's out. I don't think anybody does. And the longer you hear no news, the more I'm assuming it's bad news.
I do know that he's for sure out the first 4 games, and then I think they'll probably re-update. Hopefully, for my sake, I have him on my fantasy team sitting on the IR. Hopefully, he comes back and he's Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I had him, I drafted him, and I just traded him for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt of the Commanders. They call him Bill for some reason. I'm welcoming Bill to the squad. If you've watched any Commanders games, I watched their games pretty heavily this year just because I have Jaden Daniels. I had Jaden Daniels last year too, so I'm kind of becoming a Jaden Daniels fan just because of fantasy and the production. So
That's how I felt Josh Allen last year, but I got Baker this year.
So Bill, as they call him, he's a rookie running back, and he's looked good for him. And then Austin Eckler just went out, and he's done for the season. So I'm hoping that Bill performs better than the injured Joe Mixon has. I've had R.J. Harvey starting. Terrible. He's not ready. He's not coming out from behind Dobbins, and I don't know what Denver's offense is doing. So hopefully, good trade.
That is true. So we just highlighted the games that we were impressed by watching this week. So now we're just going to kind of end or wrap up this small podcast episode. We're going to talk about the games that we look forward to this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say, and people might not agree with this, but let's see. Oh, yeah, and it's Sunday Night Football. Kansas City sitting at 0-2. The Giants sitting at 0-2 play Sunday Night Football. Now, I understand the Giants didn't win against Dallas the other day, but that, coming off a red hot performance, get to play Kansas City now. I'm intrigued to see how that game goes.
Yeah. I agree. I think this is where the Chiefs finally pick up their win.
I'm also wondering, does Russell Wilson continue to play that way, or is that just, one-hit wonder for this season?
And I'll say this from watching plenty of Russell Wilson in the past. He is one of those quarterbacks, he's a shorter quarterback, and he likes the deep ball a lot. And Malik Neighbors is like his prototypical, wide receiver. He likes throwing to guys that can go up and get it over top of people. Malik Neighbors is that guy. I feel like the longer they play together, the better that connection is going to be. I don't think he can keep up what he did last game, but I think his true performance is going to lie somewhere between that first game and this last game, week 1 and week 2 performances, because he was terrible in week 1.
Yeah, their whole team was terrible in week 1, so.
And speaking of their team, Scatabo, he looked pretty good this past week.
Yeah, and Wan'Dale Robinson, he had a good game. So
that'll be an interesting matchup, I think, and this might be a surprising take for some people, but I think my matchup of the week will probably be the Steelers and the Patriots. I think both teams 1-1. The Steelers had also just a terrible loss this past week. How you just mess up, a kickoff that badly, just watch the ball roll into the end zone, a live ball. Just stand there and stare at it, and then the defender comes and picks it up and scores a touchdown off of a kickoff. You're just not going to recover from that in a close game. And I feel like that, was just the death of them this past week. But I'm interested to see how Aaron Rodgers continues to perform. Jalen Ramsey had his first interception this past week. We talked about him in their week 1 matchup. I want to see how he continues to fit in. They have a dangerous defense, and DK Metcalf looked good. So they lost, but they had a lot of positives besides one of the worst plays I've ever seen. And then the Patriots, they've looked hot this year, and I think there's been a lot of concerns about Ramondre Stevenson. He had issues fumbling the ball, holding onto the ball. Last year, it kind of seems like he's gotten away from that. If he can, protect the ball better this season, he's a dangerous running back. They have a rookie running back that looks good. And it looks like, Drake May is kind of taking that next step, and he looks pretty dangerous this year with Booty and Diggs. I'd like to see Diggs get more involved, but I think that they're, one of those sleeper teams this year.
Yeah, Drake May finally did kind of play well this past week. I will say this, though, and this is coming from a Patriots fan. The Dolphins, for whatever reason, are absolutely hot garbage. I mean, they are terrible.
They are terrible, but, on the other hand, it's the Patriots and the Dolphins, and it seems like the Dolphins are always the Patriots' kryptonite, even when they're in dynasty form. It's like the, 14 and 1, 14 and 2, and one of those losses would be to the Dolphins.
That is very true, my friend. Another game, this will probably be the last one we highlight. This will be interesting to watch. The Ravens and the Lions. The Lions off to a slow start in week 1. They looked a lot better this past week. Kind of, laid it to the Bears. And the Ravens probably should have won week 2 or week 1 for sure, and did not come out with that win after the Bills just go crazy. Derrick Henry, probably the worst game he's played in a while this past week. I will say this, though. This really got me thinking, man. Derrick Henry was the most bet on player in the NFL this past week, and then he miraculously has the worst game of his career. Now, I'm not saying nothing, my brother, but, man, that just really gets the gears turning.
Yeah, well, they come out with the win, so I'm sure they don't really care. But, there was a lot.
Derrick Henry cares. He cares.
This past week was weird for the Ravens, though. Like, this whole season they've struggled with. I mean, Mark Andrews has struggled all the first 2 games, and he struggled a lot last year. I think Isaiah Likely's coming back this week or next week, so I'm interested to see how they get him involved. I mean, their offense is just kind of odd. I mean, Zay Flowers, I think, has taken a lot of touches away from a lot of people in the offense this year, and he's looked great, but I don't know. It's hard to get back on track when you lose the way you do in week 1, like they did to the Bills.
Yeah, but I mean, even like mentally after that, it's going to take a couple weeks to recover because, like, the mindset that entire game is like, we're going to win this ball game, and then, a lot of crazy stuff happens and the Bills pull it out. So yep. We shall see how that game wraps up, and I want to say that is going to be Monday Night Football.
Monday night at 8:15.
Thursday Night Football this week, we have the Dolphins and the Bills. That's probably going to be a bloodbath, but
yeah, that should be a absolute blowout. But you never know. It's football. Tune in. I'll have the schedule pulled up here for anybody that wants to see it. A lot of 1 o'clock games. I'll be tuned into Red Zone, trying to keep up with everything as usual. And then your 4 o'clock games.
The death of, and a lot of our listeners will agree with this. The death of Stream East has really bothered me this NFL season because it's getting hard. I usually I'm not buying League Pass, bro, or Red Zone. So
I mean, I looked into buying it because I enjoy watching it, and it's even if you buy it, you don't get to watch all the games. Like, you're still region locked. There's no point. Like, I'll watch Red Zone and it'll jump back and forth. I mean, my gosh, they had what they called the Brady Bunch screen this past Sunday at 1 o'clock. They had 9 games on at once, about the size of a microwave on my TV. I didn't know what I was looking at, dude. They said, yeah, we're going to the Brady Bunch view, and they had 9 games going at once. I didn't even know.
Me, I'll be honest with you. I don't even I like Red Zone when it actually switches to, like, somebody that's about to score, maybe. But, yeah. I mean, I don't really I don't even like looking at 4 screens at once, really, because, I mean, you can only watch one at a time.
Yeah, and it's such a headache. But, I mean, for me, that's the only way I can watch Denver. There's no way, unless they're playing the Bengals or the Browns or the Steelers, I just don't get to watch Denver, which really stinks. And even if I paid, like, I'd have to pay for YouTube TV, or I don't even know what I'd have to pay to get it. Like, I don't know where it's out of network.
I feel
I
it's
think that's a
I miss a lot
I
of
think
games.
that's a topic we can talk about when we do our longer video later on. Something for the listeners to kind of look out for is like sports viewing in 2025 is going to kill. I feel like it is killing the NFL, the MLB, and the NBA. So maybe that's a topic we'll touch
Not
on.
even just watching it, digitally, like freaking going to a game anymore is just flat out outrageous. College,
Yeah.
pros, anything. I mean, I was looking at tickets for NBA today, and I like sitting lower level mainly because obviously everybody prefers that over upper, but like I have trouble seeing at ball games. I'm not gonna lie, but like, dude, used to you could get a decent lower level seat at an NBA game for heck. I mean, me and my buddy Brandon Moore's got them between 80 and $90 before. And I'm looking on there now, dude, in the same seats we'd sit in for between, say, the most I probably spent was $150. You're talking 350 to 500 now. Like, I mean, that's ridiculous. Not
Yeah.
only that, and a lot of times, you're splitting a hotel room, you're eating, you're paying for gas.
Yeah.
Man, you're going to be $1,000 deep going to watch one game. And that's
Yep.
just like, that's talking
And
about
that's just like a regular season game too. And it's not a game. I mean, it's a game
talking
between.
about a guy, I'm a young guy, I don't have a family. Like, try a husband and wife trying to take their 3 or 4 kids. I mean, my God, you're gonna have to take out a loan to go on a trip.
I mean, and you go to these games, and a hot dog costs $8.
Yeah, that too. That's ridiculous.
I don't know. We'll touch on that in the next podcast. We'll kind of leave that as a cliffhanger for now. Something for our longer episode coming up. But like always, we appreciate everybody listening. We hope you guys enjoy the shorter format that we're doing, and we hope you guys tune in to our next episode.